Hello everybody, David Serpa here with another market update about French Valley and the surrounding areas, the greater Temecula Valley, Riverside County, and the inland empire. We do this the first and third Tuesday of every month. Here's a little sneak peek of what we're going to talk about. These are areas where 20% or more of the listings that are active on the market have had price reductions. We're going to dive into that a little bit along with these. My favorite real estate YouTubers. We're talking about how did we get here? Where are we going? I'm going to discuss some of the top stories. We're going to analyze, and this is from a special request from a buyer that I met with this week. How does this look versus 2006? So we're going to go 2006 versus 2023. We're going to dive more into that graph that I showed you with the zip codes with 20% or more of the active listings have reductions. We're going to focus specifically on 92596. We're going to go into renting versus buying, leaving California for states with zero income tax, and how people are making their dollars stretch a little bit further here, the trajectory for where this is going, finances, and then if you want to post your questions, comments, or concerns about real estate, feel free to do so in the comments, and I will jump on those as well. Now, again, this is not a solicitation for your business. If you are under contract with an agent, if you are not under contract, of course, this is a solicitation for your business. If you would like a customized market analysis, please feel free to send your information to me or address to me at my email or my personal phone number, and I will text or email you your custom market analysis. These are some of the videos that we have posted on weeks past for these classes. Started doing this 4 months ago. We started updating you, and I don't want to brag or anything, but we've been 100% dead on. These are some of the topics. You can find us at the Homes Team on YouTube. Now, this is where to study. These are my favorite YouTubers consistently that talk about real estate. You've got Nick with Reventure Consulting, who we're going to dive into a lot of his data today. Travis with Real Estate Mindset, who does a great job coaching people on how to become homeowners and when is the right time to buy. Jaspreet Singh, who does Minority Mindset. You can get a free newsletter from him daily. And then Derrick Evans, who is my preferred lender, a friend of ours with Smarter San Diego, and you can find him on YouTube as well. We've ranked them from bear to bull so that you know exactly how they stand on real estate, in my opinion. And again, if you would like to sponsor breakfast in a future class, please feel free to do so. But we don't have any business cards out. We're not trying to do that here. How did we get here? Now, this is the longest period in American history where we have not had a recession, and that was before COVID. There was a lot of artificial stimulus that kept this market going. There was 111 straight months of price increases. There was the largest increases to VA and FHA loan limits in history. And then, of course, interest rates got near zero. COVID-19 set off the third great migration where people were looking to get more out of their house than they previously had. And then interest rates have doubled. We've seen prices plummet, and we're going to dive into some of that. I was listening to Jerome Powell speak this morning before I came in. He was being questioned about the plans that the Feds have, and it seems like it's going to be a lot more of the same. The Feds have raised rates nearly a full point in 30 days. He said this morning, unemployment is at the lowest that it's been in 58 years, so since 1965. They stated earlier that they're planning to inflict pain in housing and in business and in our personal finances. He said today that there are 2 jobs for every person that's looking for a job. Now, we can really look at what kind of jobs those are and whether or not those can support housing a little bit later in this presentation. And of course, he said this will continue. They've done what they said they're going to do. Interest rates are different than mortgage rates. We've seen mortgage rates go from 6.52% on February 7th to 7.43% on March 6th, which is almost a full point in about 30 days. So these are the top stories that we dove into more deeply here in class. Now, if you really want my commentary and you really want me to dive in more deeply with you, come on out to the French Valley Library. We saw mortgage demand from home buyers drop to a 28-year low. So these are people looking to buy a house. And what has driven the lack of demand? Well, interest rates skyrocketing. We've seen mortgage delinquencies increase in the fourth quarter of 2022, which means that more people are falling behind on their monthly payments. In fact, 10% of FHA loans are delinquent right now, 10.4%. We'll get into that here a little bit later. And then smart locks could mean getting locked out of your apartment the minute that your rent is late. Wouldn't that be something? No eviction process, nothing, just all of a sudden you're locked out until you swipe your credit card. They found that FHA delinquency rates raised 209 basis points to 10.61%, and VA delinquency rate increased by 45 basis points to 4.16%. Veterans, active duty, they have more of a stable source of income. They're active duty, their job's not going anywhere. We haven't necessarily seen that in the civilian sector, where people have lost their small businesses due to COVID. They've lost their main source of income, and now they're being forced into a job where they're not making as much. Investors are buying roughly half as many homes as they were a year ago. Now, this article was released just a few weeks ago, and you can see right here that they fell 46% year over year, which means that you've got about half as many investors buying. This is the graph for what we just talked about. You can see right here in 2018 where we should have experienced a market downturn, and then of course COVID goes off, and who could have guessed that, right? These are the metros with the largest declines in investor home purchases. So this means that, and we saw that investors have fallen 46% nationally. Well, locally, it's 53%, which means that more than half of investors have said, you know what, I'm not buying through this iBuyer program. I'm not, buying rentals. I'm not fix and flipping. And it's because their cap rates have gone down significantly because the cost of capital has gone up. Now, U.S. credit debt has hit a record high as inflation leaves consumers financially stressed. This is February 16th, 2023. Low-income households are falling behind on car payments. Now, these are the kind of things that are indicative of a housing recession to come, if it's not already here. And I think we're here. The U.S. subprime auto delinquency rate, we're going to look at this on the next slide, but Ford files a patent to allow self-driving cars to drive away from homeowners who don't keep up with payments. So the U.S. subprime auto delinquency rate, you can see during the last recession, it was about this high, 6%. Now, record high, we heard Jerome Powell talk about this, that there are 2 job openings for every person that is looking. But the people that left the job force in the last 2 years are not looking for unskilled labor positions. They're looking to enter into the job force at a similar income to where they left. And a lot of people are not seeing those opportunities and have been staying out of the job force. And of course, who's leading the way in that is women. Women, during COVID-19, a lot of families experienced that, you know what, they're forced to do more with less because their income took a hit during COVID. They decided not to return to that sort of lifestyle because hey, listen, I don't need to return to work. I'd rather spend the time with my family. And 2 million women left the job force permanently. That's 65% of the people that left during that time decided to stay home. Now, what happens when the workforce does not return? We jumped into this a little bit. The railroad strike, people were shot back to work. You could look at a lot of union busting activities, a lot of government working with private capital in order to get people to work. Jay Gould said, I can hire one half of the working class to kill the other half. He was a railroad tycoon. Jerome Powell says that he's going to bring pain to households and businesses. You can already see that it's worked, 9.5% to 6.5% in a few months. Clearly, they're taking massive hits of inflation. The dollar is strengthening, et cetera, and so forth. But at what cost? And that's the big thing. Not many people can support a household on one income, let alone on an entry-level income. And we'll talk about this more later. So 2006 versus 2023, this was a special request from a buyer who contacted me and said, hey, listen, how does this compare to 2006? And we're gonna jump into that now. So housing actually peaked in July of 2006, $184,607. Just picture a little, decimal right there. And in a year, it only fell 2.2%. Now, we've seen it peak in June, $308,356. And in 6 months, it fell 4.5% nationally. We talked about locally what that looked like, and it was about 10% across the board. Now, what happens if that keeps up? And it's not a situation where you're seeing 2.2% in a year. It's closer to 20% in a year if things keep going the way that they're already going. So in 2 years, we saw home prices drop 10%, 2006 to 2008. So that happened in 6 months. And it took 6 years for the market to bottom out, which is why I'm telling people, if you're buying a house right now, prepare mentally to be underwater for the foreseeable future. It's not necessarily going to be an investment, but it is going to be your home. It's not going to be your landlord's home. A lot of people want to buy and they want everything to be an investment. And I understand that. But there's a lot of people that are out there buying right now who just want to have a home, who just want to have a house. That's their own. And so 28% in 6 years. What happens if we continue to fall for another 5.5 more years? I don't know. Are things going to slow down? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that last time, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly freaking rhymes, right? It took 12 years to return, which is why I was meeting with people in 2016 that were saying, I finally have enough equity in my house to leave California. I finally have enough equity to not have to pay to sell my house to leave California, which is why I'm telling people, if you need to leave, there might not be a better time. And if you're going to buy a house, make sure that you're not going anywhere for the next 5 to 10 years. Make sure that your source of income is not going anywhere for a while. These are important things to talk about. Now, of course, every metro is different. And historically, our area of Southwest Riverside County is hit hard during times of recession. That's what happened the last time. Now, how many people moved here during the last 3 years? Everybody. Orange County, LA, San Diego. My last class was full of people from Orange County, San Diego, and LA. How many people have moved, how many new homes are currently under construction? How many new homes have been built? Right now, the average new home is being sold for less, almost $50,000 less than the average resale in French Valley. We talked about that on the last video. Have local wages kept up with how much home prices have gone up monthly? Absolutely not. We're going to talk about it now. Riverside is going to be a heavy crash market, folks. That's according to Nick with Reventure Consulting. Some of the best data about housing on the internet, in my opinion. If you, of course, can sign up with Reventure Consulting, I do. It's awesome. Best performing inventory counties. You look at 4 counties that added inventory. There's only 4. And then you look at the best performing counties. We're not on page 1. We're on page 2. Not the worst performing county, but we're 28th. Okay? Now these are the percentage of active homes with price reductions. That was that map that I showed you earlier. All of these red circles are where 20% or more of active listings have reduced their home prices. The red arrows that I've added are where 19% or more of the active listings have reduced their home prices. People are starting to realize this is not 2021. I cannot continue to sell my house for this much. The market has turned, it has shifted. And about 1 in 5 people are waking up and realizing that right now. They're getting realistic, and we're gonna jump in right now to what that actually looks like. Canyon Lake is leading the way. Now, is that because inventory has grown year over year in Canyon Lake? Absolutely not. In fact, we've seen inventory actually not grow very fast at all in Canyon Lake. But what we are seeing is that people are looking at things like HOAs, they're looking at taxes, and they're looking at their area. And they're saying, am I willing to pay this much to be in a gated community in the second safest city in the country? Am I willing to pay this much to have access to a community pool, et cetera, and so forth? Do I really need to live in Temecula, or can I live in French Valley, right? So like these kind of things where how can I make my dollar stretch a little bit further? Am I willing to commute a little bit, right? So Canyon Lake, 28.2% of those listings have reduced prices. Hemet, 27%. Lake Elsinore, 27%. Fallbrook and Temecula, the 92028, 26%. And then you get into the second list, Temecula, 92592, 24%. You get into Winchester, which is where we are, 23.2%. And then Menifee, 20%. And there's only 20 cities where 20% or more of the inventory has reduced prices. And a lot of this has to do with year-over-year inventory growth because of new home building. Lots of new home building in Menifee. Look at that. How much inventory has grown year over year. Lots of new home building in Winchester. We've seen that year over year. We see it when you drive around the area. Now, Riverside County is the second fastest growing county in the United States. Now, we can look at, this is the graph that shows that 23.2% of those active listings have reduced prices. We look at the for sale inventory. Now, in our little pocket, inventory is up year over year. We're not quite at pre-pandemic levels because people are like, oh, I could sell my house, but then I have to buy a house at a 7% interest rate. How can I afford that, right? So a lot of people are stuck or they're looking to relocate, okay? The monthly house payment, this is a graph that I found very interesting. Just 2 years ago, you saw that the monthly house payment was $2,202 a month. And now it's $4,129 a month. Are you kidding me? Who can afford that? Are people making almost twice as much as they were making 2 years ago here? Well, it's interesting that you should ask, David. No, they're not. You can see right here that they're not making twice as much as a household. Not anywhere close. They're making what, about 9% more as a household than they were a couple of years ago? But not, 200% more. Okay, so this is the median household income. You can see this chart. I found that pretty interesting. There's French Valley right there in the middle, 112,305. This is the house payment as a percentage of your median income. This is really what we're looking at. Can you afford to pay for your house every month? Okay, 44% of the average household income is going towards their mortgage payment. With PMIs, all the good things, taxes, insurance, etc. Just towards a mortgage payment. That's wild. And then what we saw that mortgage refinance demand surges as homeowners take advantage of lower interest rates. Yes, this article was released in January of 2023 because we saw mortgage interest rates blip down a little bit. Just a little bit, but not enough to make new home buyers buy, but enough to make people tap into their equity, improve the homes that they're in currently, and make that monthly payment just a little bit less affordable, which scares me. Because the national average for mortgage, taxes, and insurance is about 27% of your income. I tell people, plan about a third of your income going towards your mortgage. Now, we're at 44% locally. That's nuts. So that's 17% above the long-term national average locally. So your average household income, $112,000. The percentage highest ever towards a house, 44%, which means that you'll be contributing $49,414 annually towards your house payment, which means that your monthly allowance towards your property tax, your insurance, and your mortgage payment is $4,117 monthly. Wild. Wild. Now, even at your entry-level jobs, can anybody afford that? I mean, look at these people, our kids going in trying to rent a room, trying to buy their first home, whatever. $20 an hour. Let's say it's high end. You got lucky, they were able to get $20. Let's say that they were able to get 40 hours a week, which not a lot of people are able to get 40 hours a week because then they got to pay for your benefits. So, which means that pre-tax income is $3,200 monthly. Well, 44% of that is $1,408 a month towards rent, towards a mortgage. What does this buy? What can this rent? So there are a lot of people that are getting squeezed, and I didn't even factor in the taxes there. So they're looking at renting versus buying. Should I rent a house or should I buy one. Should I just rent? Okay, well, we look at our zip code, or excuse me, our county, Riverside County. The typical rent is $2,496. Here in our area, it's higher, about $500 higher. Buying, about $3,300. Here, locally, it's about $500 more. But either way, that's about $800 more to buy right now, monthly. That's difficult to consider. And again, this is a managed crash. If interest rates were to go down now, prices would go right back up. But they're not. They're not going to. Just about guarantee you that. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. But where can I get more for my money? Okay, well, do I really want to be in an area with a Melrose tax? I just had a buyer tell me that they were looking at new homes. They went to McSweeney Farms, and that home didn't have a 20-year Melrose, not a 30-year Melrose. It had a 40-year Melrose tax. Wild. People are looking at their HOA, and they're like, do I need to pay to live in a gated community in the second safest city in the country? Do I need the community pool? How often will we use it? They're looking at the area. Now, every city is looking down their nose at somebody, right? And some people are saying, maybe I don't need to live in Temecula. Maybe I'll live in French Valley. Maybe I don't need to live in French Valley. Maybe I'll live in Hemet. Where can I afford to buy? Because I'm sick of renting. Now, this is the migration pattern, highly scientific data that I drew up here myself. People are commuting coming from San Diego, Orange County, LA, and they're leaving Riverside for other parts of the state. Now, over 500,000 people left California in 2 years, which is interesting. I looked at that, I was like, well, there must be people coming too. Well, no, our population dropped by 500,000, 500,000 people. So when you dive more deeply into that, the people that are leaving LA, leaving OC, leaving San Diego, coming to Riverside, they're leaving the inland, the Bay Area, and they're going to the Inland Empire of Northern California, which is like Sacramento, Roseville, et cetera, and so forth, because the cost of housing and rent in the coastal communities has gotten ridiculously high. So this is tax percentage of income. This includes property tax, it includes sales tax, it includes, what's the other sneaky tax where they get us? But either way, California leads the way. So people that are on a fixed income, people that have retired from military service, retired from the police department, they're wanting to get out of California to see where they don't have to pick up a second job. Maybe they could just, enjoy retirement. God forbid. So these are the places with zero state income tax. Now, some of these places get it back in other ways. Like New Hampshire here. New Hampshire's getting that property tax. Texas, typically higher property tax. They get that money back in a different way. But these are the 9 states with no state income tax. Wyoming, Alaska, Tennessee, Florida, South Dakota, Nevada, Texas, Washington, and New Hampshire. Now, the states that we personally help people move to are Texas, Tennessee, Nevada, Washington, and Florida. And that's where people are going if they're wanting their money to stretch further. So our local MLS, we're not going to drive too much into this at all, because in the past videos, we dove into new housing, we dove into resale extensively. We looked at the last 6 months where housing prices were and where they are now. So we're not going to do that now. Again, French Valley, 10.9% drop in 6 months. Temecula, 17% drop in 6 months, or 10.9% in 5 months. Murrieta, 7.7% drop in 5 months. Menifee, 9.5% drop in 5 months. Hemet, 9.8% drop in 6 months. Now, people might say, well, this is just paper equity. That equity didn't matter. It matters if you bought at the height of the shift. It matters if you're trying to get more for your money and you're trying to leave California. It matters if you're living on a fixed income, right? All these different things are important when considering when you're going to sell your house. It matters when fire insurance is skyrocketing, when flood insurance has skyrocketed, cost of living has skyrocketed, right? And especially when we live in 11 to 15 year cycles. We're like, oh, you know what, buy a house, it'll be okay, market's gonna return. Yeah, it's gonna return eventually, but it took 12 years to recover. Here's the trajectory We're going up 2020. We're going up in 2021. We're going up in 2022. It peaks in June, and then it starts crashing right here. You see the beginning of the year, we saw that bullcrap Redfin article where they're like, housing is up 1% year over year. Well, what's the trajectory, folks? What does it look like? Does it look like housing is going up right now, or does it look like it's going down? And what is Jerome Powell saying? What is the Fed chair saying? He's saying that things are going to get worse, period. 2-to-1 rate buy down, we discussed this more in class, we discussed this more in previous videos. 2% for the first year, 1% for the second year, and then you're back to the day that you locked for the rest of the term of the loan. You don't adjust, like let's say interest rates go up to 10% 2 years from now, which drives home prices down, right? So home prices go down, that means that interest rates went up. Doesn't mean that the housing is more affordable. It means that now, it won't necessarily on your monthly payment, right? So anyway, an adjustable rate mortgage would adjust to the current rate. A 2-to-1 rate buy down adjusts the rate before you bought it down. So when you sign your loan documents. Okay, and we give a calculation on what that looks like. Again, I'm not going to try to act like the monthly payments aren't high. They're still high. It's still very unaffordable to buy a house right now. I feel for people. We looked at new homes, the fact that they're priced below. We looked at Meritage, Lennar, KB, Pulte, deeply on the last video. So please go look at that. And the fact that new home construction is now competing with home sellers. 75% of people move because of a significant life event. They're not trying to time the market. And there are still homes that are going with multiple offers, but it's not every home. You gotta be priced right. You gotta be marketed right, and you have to be open and available to the people that are driving out for the day from Orange County, LA, San Diego, that want to see open houses. I'm not gonna act like open houses aren't important, especially in a market like this one. Here are some real estate jokes. I took my own lunch to work and didn't buy a coffee today, so I should be able to afford to buy a house any day now. When you've been selling your plasma and realize people are making enough money on the side to cover their rent every month. 28 controversial but non-criminal ways to pay rent this month. Sure, just donate all of your body fluids so that you can continue to have a roof over your head. And then those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. Yet those who do study history are doomed to stand by helplessly while everyone else repeats it. And if you've watched this video so far, you're somebody that does study history because you're still tuned in. And my God, are you going nuts right now, right? Adulting is realizing all you need is a home, a stable income, and a peaceful partner. Isn't that the truth? I think that's where people are at right now. The people that are buying right now are like, I just want my own home. My wife and I just want a peaceful place to be, you know, et cetera and so forth. My family, we're growing. I can't live in this small space anymore. Can't live in a small home. I can't live with family. Featured listing sold. Questions. That's my number. Give me a ring. Shoot me a text. That's my family. That's my wife. That's my sister, the superwoman of real estate. That's my mom, Mama Serpa. Join French Valley Talk. Right now we're at 9,800 members. We're going to be at 10,000 members, probably by the end of this month. And then, of course, the French Valley Market Update is at the French Valley Library the first and third Tuesday of every month. So come out and join us. And this is my contact information. If you've enjoyed this market update, please feel free to give me a review. We've got 5-star ratings everywhere, and that's the truth. If you've enjoyed this market update, please feel free to join me every first and third Tuesday of the month at the French Valley Library. Feel free to go back and watch the past videos where I've taught about what's going on in the market in Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, Riverside County, the Inland Empire. And of course, feel free to go watch my other educational content if you are a real estate agent and are trying to make sense of this career field in a very difficult time to try to break into real estate for the first time. So I appreciate you guys watching. You've got my contact information.